And so let's take you to 96 when you talk about the celebrities and stuff. So now we in 96. And now I'm no longer opening for my cousin. Pretty much my cousin has a band around me, you know, and we and him formed the group called the Altered Egos. And so, you know, we made out, we just was in the local circuit. And really, we didn't tour outside New York, but we just was really known in the local circuit. Very theatrical, hip hop, just cosmic and wild, just some wild stuff, you know. Funkadelic meets Outkast before Outkast was really known in the East Coast like that, even though they came out in 94, 95, and I was a fan of them. But just to give you a context, right? It was really very different and very alternative. In 96, summer, early fall, late summer, early fall, I did a show in Brooklyn at something called the Brooklyn Moon Cafe that was affiliated with the Brooklyn Tea Party. Okay, now this was like an open mic spot around the time a lot of the poets was getting big, right? And so people like Saul Williams, some people know his name. Saul Williams is like a titan of the poetry, slam, spoken word scene. Rest in peace, Mums, Jessica Caремore. So all of those are just local folks that we just knew, like friends, you know, people that were always on the open mics. And so this was a place where a lot of the rappers and poets and singers all kind of juxtaposed, because that was the thing. Showcase the open mic, you know, and a lot of those people were already doing some stuff in the industry, about to blow up, or you know, just so it's a lot of that gestation. You know, Most Def and Talib will come through there, and around this is 96. You know what I'm saying? So like Most Def was already known as an actor, but he was kind of just beginning on as an MC. Talib was about to start coming up a year after that. Black Star came out, right? So this was the realm, you know, when Common would come in town, Common would show up there, and this event was in Fort Greene, Brooklyn. One night I was one of the featured acts, you know, and we did our thing live. We had our band there, and we just blew it down. It was really, really powerful. And Miss Erykah Wright was in the audience. This is 96, a year before she became known as Erykah Badu. She was in the audience, and after the show, again, this is my show, she came to me and she was like, yo, I love what you do, you know, and we just started kicking it. We just had an immediate like brother-sister connection, and we just was talking that whole night. We just locked into each other. And when she was talking to me, we got into veganism and healing and fasting, and we just started talking about that, you know, after the music stuff. And then she just told me that she just recently had a book called Heal Thyself that's inspiring her about detoxing. I said, oh, really? A Queen of Food? That's my mother. And then that took the conversation to a whole nother level. Lo and behold, you know, fast forward, we basically, me and her hung out every single day from that point on, while she didn't let us even know she had a record deal. You know, she was in, you know, yeah, but I knew she was talented, you know what I mean? So she would do open mics and she would do stuff. I would show up and support her. I thought she was an incredible vocalist, and she was an MC too. She could rap. She could really rap very well, you know. And so I was hearing a lot of the demos that we got to know as our hits in Baduism. You know, the On and On. You know, she would perform that a lot of times at open mic, and Next Lifetime, and Other Shot of the Game. You know, she will kind of, you know, do that. And so yeah, so she would, and then she started taking me to the studio sessions in these big giant studios. I'm like, okay, wait, you tell me what's going on here. You ain't telling me about it. Because I mean, she was taking me to these, historical places like the Record Plant, one of the big places that a lot of us and big artists have, you know, recorded there. And I remember going to the Record Plant with her one day and talking about Baduism, the history of that. Next Lifetime. I was supposed to be the guy in the beginning of Next Lifetime, the guy that's speaking in the beginning. But I kept laughing. She kept making faces. Me and her were comical together. So I kept messing up the lines. It was simple lines. I was supposed to just be kicking it to her, talking about, hey, I want to be with you. And she's supposed to tell me Next Lifetime, right? But I couldn't get it right. So she called either the producer or the engineer in the booth, and then he ended up historically being on the record. So just the context, that's how involved I was in the camp. Lo and behold, February, she dropped On and On, and then a month later the album dropped in March 97, and it was a wrap. It was it. And I was blessed to travel on the road with her for 2 years, between the first album and Baduism, all while I was still an MC. I was still recording, you know, my stuff, and and just kicking game, just learning about the industry. Being now in a camp with a rising star, that was a really powerful opportunity for me to meet all types of industry folks, industry lawyers and accountants and artists and producers, just really absorbing and learning, and being close with her gave me access to all of those celebrities, you know what I mean? And so I wasn't ushered into her camp in the world as an artist, even though I was still an artist. But one of my other talents, as a medicine man, as someone that is into the holistic arts, that's pretty much how I got to be known in the business with her early on in the late '90s. Like I said, hence Busta Rhymes, just channeling that and knighting me with that title and me running with it. And so now, I between me just now growing that muscle of being, I would call a wellness minister. I'm not dogmatic. I don't try to say it's my way, the highway. I just try to educate brothers and sisters on the benefits of natural living and integrating, foods as medicine, and really just, having them, understand and respect that their physical vessel is a power station, and that they have, daily disciplines, body, mind, and spirit, and foods to fuel them, they can be very successful. So I was always into that. And by being around Badu in that camp allowed me to sharpen that part of myself that wasn't the artist, you know what I'm saying? That now, years later, my first album I put out commercially, independent, but commercially was in 2002. It was called The Medium of Balance, Volume 1. It was a double CD. And it was critically acclaimed. I did really well as an independent artist. And then my next offering was 2004. I did something called, I did a soundtrack in my first film. It was an independent film called Holistic Wellness for the Hip Hop Generation. And so that's where I merged the whole medicine man, concept with the art, and it was just being, Badu was in the film. Common was in the film. DJ Kool Herc was in the film. Dead Prez, Stickin' in One was in the film. Brother Steele from Smith and Wesson was in the film. And it was just a documentary, of me just asking those artists, what do they do holistically in wellness that they can inspire somebody else with, and why do they do what they do, And so, and then it was just spliced between me doing my art and me just doing my wellness ministry stuff, and just having my vision for my generation. My vision is for us to be well, because at that time, we lost Big Punisher. Around that time, we lost Brother Poetic from Gravediggers from colon cancer. And it was a whole bunch of hip hop artists that now we know are either sick or died from a health disparity. And so the soundtrack, called Holistic Wellness for Hip Hop Generation, was me rapping, doing various raps, talking about, songs like Drugs Masquerading as Foods, and how the corporate structure pretty much is set up for us to be sick so they can stay rich. I have songs like called Sugar Crack, and how processed white sugar is one molecule away from crack cocaine, and how it addicts us and our kids. And so songs like that, and this is not 2004, me just wanting to use now in that particular project, what I call medicine raps, me wanted just to, drop those jewels of holistic wellness in the rap music, and really building the hip hop medicine man out. Now, that wasn't all I did as an artist, but for that project specifically, I wanted to make sure that the soundtrack was a good companion to the visual, Now we're going from 2004 to 2000 and, wow, between 7 and 9. There's a few things happening with me. Two things was happening with me. One, I was part of a movement that I created in the '90s called Unify the Hood, Heal the Hood. Now this is my social political work. I come from the gang culture in New York. One phase of it, I'm pretty sure you heard of the Polo Lowlifes. So I was part of that legacy, right? The Boosters. I have that legacy. People don't really know, but I was, in Brooklyn. Me and my set called the Sportsmen. We were really known, and we were notorious in that. And that's the first chapter, the street rites of passage. And then the second part, I got affiliated with the Bloods, and those two affiliations, I'm coming from Queen of Four, I'm coming from Knowledge of Self, I'm not, unfortunately, you get veered out from that, you kind of get distracted in the streets. And the blessing for me was I was able to just take what I learned from the streets and still be in the streets, but now be in a more positive way. And so my affiliation with the Bloods, the Damus, and the Crips in New York was really just getting us on the wellness side, So I stayed affiliated and just used my affiliation to teach, what I call going from banging to building. And that's when I, created Unify the Hood, Heal the Hood, where I would just show up at different projects in different hoods and hold ministries on wellness to the homies, because I was affiliated, they would receive me, because you find out a lot of the homies that was in the streets had diabetes, had hypertension, deal with obesity, erectile dysfunction, sick, asthma. So here I come, and I'm one of the homies, they would receptive to that. So I felt that with the movement, you couldn't have one after the other. You can't have people doing the detoxing and cleansing, but still in an environment where they have to survive gang banging and death and destruction, right? And then you can't just talk about peace and love with the G's and then not dealing with the health disparities. So that's why I created Unify the Hood, Heal the Hood, right? It was a consciousness. So around 97, 2007, by that time, I'm picking up a lot of steam, and so now I'm doing the social work, a lot of the hood healing work. And I was blessed to, in conjunction with a new project I was coming out with, uh, that I was blessed to record songs with the game from West Coast, the game and Jada Kiss, from the Locks. Erykah Badu contributed something, and that was preparation for my album called The Remedy.